Let's talk to Andrew Orlovsky now. Andrew, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
Good to talk to you. I mean, it's always difficult with politicians, isn't it? Because you don't always know if they mean precisely what they're saying and whether they're being very careful with what they're saying. But she did appear to be opening the door slightly to the possibility of finding places to frack, albeit places where nobody would object to it going on.
Yeah, it's. I mean, this story is really a tragedy. I think Kemi's commitment to fracking was about as anemic as you can possibly get. She's really trying not to upset anybody. Whereas what I think she's missing the chance to do is really to make the moral case for cheap energy.
Yeah.
And we've got this incredible resource. I reported on this very closely about 15 years ago on shale gas, both here and America, which was causing this great revolution, energy revolution. And I was told privately we have hundreds, not 60 years as was officially said, but hundreds of years of this, which would make our bills crash, really. The US price for gas is 1/6 of what it is in Europe.
Yeah.
It's entirely down to tapping the resources that are under their feet. And we have fantastic resources here.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? I mean, we seem to know, no matter what Ed Miliband says, that we have got the most expensive energy in this country. He keeps blaming it on fossil fuel, which is complete shibboleth, isn't it? I mean, it's not because of fossil fuel that the prices are going up and they're out of his control. It's because of the fact that we're spending so much money on the so-called renewable sector, subsidising it, paying people to enter it, doing deals with Chinese companies and outsourcing basically all of the energy needs that we've got.
Yeah, we've got the most expensive business industrial electricity prices in the world, and domestic prices could be half or just a little over half if we use this gas. And really there's been a kind of odd, I don't want to use the word conspiracy, but there's been the BBC turned fracking was actually very popular in about 2012 and 13.
Yeah.
There's community, you get about 6 weeks of rumbling lorries going past it, but then nothing. And communities kind of, once this was explained to them, and there was a financial incentive as well, saw what a benefit it would be to themselves, but also economically to the area.
Yeah.
BBC turned people off it, and then the Conservatives, I think, were really the most to blame because they were in power, and they killed it in they put a moratorium in the 2019 manifesto. The civil servants actually, so you've got these various things. The civil servants put in a quake safety measurement that was so low that it couldn't possibly be done. That's, I believe, 30 times lower than they asked for construction.
Right.
I mean, basically, something that nobody could feel, they would say, well, that's an earthquake, you have to stop.
Right. Yeah, I remember that happening in Blackpool a couple of times. I mean, we keep constantly being reminded as well by those who are against fracking that, parts of Pennsylvania used to have fire coming out the taps. There's been all these documentaries made, some of which are dubious, to say the least. But are there other countries that do fracking in any sort of reasonably meaningful way that we could look at?
Other than, I believe in South America there's a potential there. I mean, some countries have found the geology isn't suitable for it, but that certainly wasn't the case there. It was all entirely down to political will.
Right.
I mean, just to have a safety limit 12 times lower than quarrying means somebody really wants to go after gas and stop it.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the methane coming out of taps. That was in a film called Gaslands in 2011.
Right.
Nobody talked about quakes then. Nobody in the world raised quakes. It was entirely down to the civil servants and the BBC using this word explosions to refer to pressure washing, which is essentially what shale gas is. You spray it with water. Now, I don't explode my car when I spray it with water. I don't explode my patio. So it was all quite a deliberate misinformation campaign.
And that is the problem, isn't it? I mean, I spoke as well this week to a very interesting guy from another company, which was actually all about renewable sort of recovery of oil and gas in the North Sea. And he said that, this renewable word has been sort of hijacked by the net zero nutters, so that it only refers to wind power and solar power. But actually, he said, we should include our own great resource that we've got. We've got many more barrels of oil and much more gas that we could be getting out of the North Sea. And there's no reason why that can't be done in what he regarded as a renewable way, because it seems mad to have the fracking conversation without talking about oil and gas in the North Sea.
Yeah, well, we're going to be using it for the next 3 or 4 decades, but we'll be paying a lot more for it, and we'll be importing it. I mean, not only is taking liquid gas and turning it back into a vapor really expensive, it's also really high CO2. But the accountants and the environmentalists don't count that, so they think it's a win. I mean, it's a tragedy that we don't exploit our natural resources. We can do it really cleanly and really efficiently, but we seem to have lost sight of the fact that it should benefit people, not the planet.
I mean, I was talking to Dan Hodges from the Man on Sunday earlier, and he speaks to an awful lot of backbench Labour MPs and quite a few senior frontbench ones as well. And he was saying there's an awful lot of disquiet in the party at the moment, in the government, about Ed Miliband and his kind of, zeal to get net zero on the cards. And it may well be, if it's possible to do, that the financial pressure on the government will become such that they have to drop some of their net zero targets and some of the spending.
Yeah, I mean, I think I used this analogy last time I was on. We're hosting an Olympics, but nobody else in the world is turning up to them.
Right.
So what's the point of giving ourselves a medal there? It's insane. I mean, I do think the power cuts, and I've researched this quite a lot. The power cuts are in the pipeline, and it will be a miracle if we don't have severe power disruption, because it's already, thanks to the decisions the Conservatives made and the coalition made over 14 years. It's going to be really squeaky bum time to avoid really, really serious power cuts. But if we started now, if we treated it as a national energy emergency, we could have gas online within 5 years, nuclear within slightly longer. But both are running very slowly because Ed Miliband doesn't like either.
Yeah.
It's not
absolutely.
A real policy,
it's a lose-lose situation for the people, that's for sure. Andrew, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Andrew Orlowski, the business columnist at The Telegraph.